Hello everybody, and I thought I'd take the time to show you guys how to divide hardy water lilies. So this is my old nasty pond that I used to have lots of goldfish in, used to be real good, and then we had a big old leak, and it was like 5 degrees out in the middle of winter and the pond was almost empty, and I was on my way to work, so I just unplugged it. That was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I never got it going again. So, but I filled it back up, and all the plants, they've been coming back and doing good, but I hadn't divided the hardy water lilies for probably 3 or 4 years, and they really need to be doing it every 2 years. And so I got a mess in here, and I'll show you what I did. So what I've done here is, to my surprise, I plugged in the pump that hadn't been plugged in like 4 years, and it started shooting water out. So that made my life a whole lot easier, because I tried sticking my arms down there and pulling it out full of water, and it was so cold I couldn't take it. So glad the water pumped out. Now what you see here, this is a picture that I took probably 6 or 7 years ago, and this is what these hardy water lilies look like. I can't recall the name of it, shame on me, but I do remember paying like $90 for it online. So it's a beautiful, I mean, it sticks up out of the water. It almost looks like a tropical lily, but it is a hardy water lily. Alright, so I finally was able to get it all dug out. And this is one of the big pond planter baskets. You see it sitting down there in that hole. The water, you gotta remember, water lilies, what happens is they grow lots and lots of roots, and so they get root bound, and that's why you need to dig them up and separate them so they don't get root bound. I don't remember it blooming but maybe a little bit last year, but the years before that it had been blooming really good even without fertilizing it. There's a ram's horn shell I found in there, or who knows how long ago. And so now I'm just trying to make sense of everything, cutting off all the growth, trying to figure out, because it was just, the roots had grown out the planter basket, and the whole bottom of the pond was nothing but these water lily roots. And like you can see right there on the right side, that's some kind of rush thing that had grown into the water lily basket, and all the roots were all tangled up. So I'm just trying to get, there's a big old chunk getting out of there. Just trying to figure out what is going on. See, pulling off, because there's no way you're going to pull any of that out of there, because all them roots have grown through that basket. And what happens is, at first they quit flowering when they get root bound like that. Then the lily pads get littler and smaller, and then you just got little tiny dime-sized pads. Because I've been doing ponds for a long time, just not real actively the last 4 years, because I decided to have 27 fish tanks in my house. But that pond outside is 10 years old this year. I put it up the first spring we lived at this house. And I had a pond for like 7 years, 6 or 7 years at our old house we used to live in. So I know a thing or two about this. I've done it. It's just been a long time, so I didn't want to try to talk about it while I'm doing it, because one, the audio would be horrible, and I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before I started talking about it. There I am, shaving off the roots out of the pond basket. It's like These things, if you leave them in there, like if you leave it in something without holes in it, it'll bust it open. These pond lilies, they produce so many roots, and this is why you got to pull them up and divide them every couple of years. And you really need to pull them up every year and fertilize them. But this one, there's so much muck in that pond. It was still blooming real good without fertilizing a couple years ago. And that there was no surface of the pond that wasn't covered in lily pads the last probably 3 years. So this is a monster. I need to try to figure out what they're called so I can tell people. Let's see if we can shake it all out. Yeah, there we go. And you can tell it's just pea gravel and one of them planter pond baskets. You could do, I like to use the ones with holes so they don't get root bound as quick. But if you use a closed one, you can use like organic potting soil capped with pea gravel or something for more nutrients. But I like to just use the pond planter baskets with holes so then the roots can escape. They don't get root bound as quick. And I just fertilize with the Job's houseplant spikes. That's how I've always done it for years and years and years. Look at that great big monster. That thing is massive. Trying to show you exactly how it is. It's still, you can see how dirty and covered in muck I am. So got that big piece set aside. Let's dig through for some more. Let's see. Let's see. They're all just intertwined and tangled together. And all the rocks, I'm trying to shake off the rocks. This is why you should never let it get as bad as I have right here. But the good thing is now I will have these beautiful hardy water lilies in my guppy tubs. That's the whole point of me digging them up out of my old pond. And I divided them up, put some back in the old pond. So that'll still be going. But I got 2 baskets in each of the guppy ponds, so that will be cool. And I did end up getting the heater set up, and it's keeping it's cycling on and off at 75 degrees, even though it's getting down in the 30s here at night, even the 20s. I had ice in my hose again, so somewhere, wherever my hose was, it got below freezing. Last night again. And I think that's all of it. Sifting through my hands, seeing what we got going on. I think I got all of it. Alright, and here I am rinsing them off in a 5-gallon bucket. There's a couple I've already rinsed off just to get the muck and the rocks and the other junk off of it so I can see what I'm dealing with. Get it all rinsed off so I can figure out what is what and I can see what I'm doing. Look at all them roots, and those are just the great big ones that are still attached to the tuber. That's a good picture right there showing the grounding tips and the roots. I'll show that later in the video on how you want to plant these things. Just remember, every 2 years, this is what happens after 5 years. Great big huge tubers. My messy deck. So before I did this, I went and got, I had like 4 pond plant baskets, and I went and bought some fresh pea gravel this morning. Alright, we're done rinsing them off. Here I am planting. This is the new pea gravel I got. And here I am doing that. Those are the growing tips. And then the other side, the bottom side, is the root. So you want to plant it with the growing tips pointing up. Trimming off the excess roots. Picking off the old growth, this old rotten stems. And it's been really cold, but they're hardy water lilies, and they know it's spring, and they're starting to do their thing a little bit. So there's a few fresh growth tips going on. So it's a little early to do it now, but you want to make sure you have them new growth tips so you can figure out where your growth, because you want to plant it up with the growth tips up, the roots down. There's what I use to fertilize my Job's plant spikes. This is how I've always done it. Always had really good luck. Pea gravel, plant spikes. And then another thing you want to remember, you want to plant it on the very edge, because these are tubers and they're kind of like anubias. So you want to put the growth tip where it has the most room to expand. So, and then the back of it, unless you got new growth tips coming up, like if you have a new growth tip, you can cut it right before the growth tip or right after the growth tip, and then you have a growth tip on the one side and then a growth tip on the other, just like you would an anubias tuber type of plant. And I'm pointing out the new growth, and I'm going to do another one. So hopefully the ones I put, see, there's the growth tip, and there's another one. If I wanted to, I would cut it right in front between the new growth tips and the old growth tips. Then I could make it into, I could divide it into 2 different water lilies. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep that one big tuber going together. You can see that one did get cut because it was one of the, like the, it was part of the, like the 3-foot long snake tuber. Covering up. So yeah, I said I better plant it the other way, because I had the growth tip right on the edge. I realized that. Look, there's the growth tip. We don't want to put it on the edge. See, that one's got 2 growth tips on it as well. I could have cut that one in 2 and had 2 different tubers, but I decided to just keep it together. I said just keep it together and let it grow, because really, there's the growth tip on that one, and there's new growth tip there. So you guys, you see what I'm doing here. I'm pointing out the growth tips. Yeah. And now it's time to fertilize. So I just want to thank you guys for watching, and this should be exciting to see how these do. I haven't been active in pond stuff in a long time. It's a true passion of mine for years, longer than fish tanks have been here lately. So getting my toes back into it, having fun with it. It should be a lot of fun. I have a lot of knowledge on this stuff to share. So, thank you guys for watching.